Okay. It's good to see everyone here today. We welcome you to our meeting. And it's now time to call the City of Franklin City Commission to order. And this will be a regular meeting. And we're always glad to have Brother John Whitaker here to open us up with prayer from First Baptist Church. And Brother John, we welcome you, and we'll let you go forward here.
Thank you. Just a brief word about the new hobby that I have picked up. This is a turkey feather, and I started chasing those ugly birds around Simpson County recently, and this is kind of what they sound like sometimes. The problem is, I'm going to loosely connect this to some sort of spirituality. As Christians, we like to do the very thing that you're supposed to do when you turkey hunt. You have to dress in full camouflage, and you're supposed to go back in the brush and sit in places where they can't see, because wild turkeys have excellent vision. If they see you, they're gone. And I apply this to Christianity sometimes, because Christians sometimes we try to blend in too much to the culture. And we don't, we're not supposed to do that. In fact, 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 20 says that we are ambassadors for Christ. God is making his appeal through us. And we can't do that as well as we should if we're trying to blend into the culture. And so I'd just like to urge you to take off the camouflage and call loudly where people can see Jesus in you. And I know that I'm just proud to be part of this community, and watch y'all's leadership. I'm impressed. I've lived in several communities, and this is one of the best. And I just want to thank the Lord for you and go forward with prayer. So, Father, we love you. Thank you for this good day. Thank you for this commission, for all of these servants of our community. And I pray that you would give them wisdom, as I often do when I'm here. Give them wisdom, Father. Give them the wisdom of Solomon. Give them the wisdom of the Father, so that they can lead our community with justice and mercy. And we do pray that you would continue the good things that I've seen in Simpson County recently. Thank you for the good leadership. And I pray that as we enter into a season of election, that there would be a peaceful transfer of authority. And Father, that you would appoint those who will continue to serve this community selflessly and with equity. And we do thank you for this day. Be with this meeting and bring wisdom into this room. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, Brother John. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to come and be with us. You are welcome to stay, or you're welcome to go. It's just, again, thank you. We will move on to the approval of our minutes and from the last meeting, and that will be the approval of minutes of the April 11th, 2022 regular meeting. And I'm assuming that everyone's had an opportunity to look over those and observe those. Are there any comments or questions?
Make a motion to approve.
Okay. We have a motion by Commissioner Powell to approve them, a second by Commissioner Bennett. Any further discussion? Okay. We'll have all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any motion carries. I don't think we don't have anything under here. The public today. Recognitions, nothing under recognitions. Under community services, we are fortunate to have Jackie Hunt here with us today, and with the South Central Kentucky Drug Task Force. And Kenton, you want to?
Yeah, Jackie, go ahead and come forward. But been talking to Jackie last couple of weeks ago, and typically we would have him come and just give an update. And I thought the timing was good as we're on the eve of doing budget planning, and I know that Mr. Hunt has a lot of things to kind of give the commission a report on. So, Mr. Hunt, it's all yours.
Good afternoon, everybody. Glad to be here. I just want to kind of give a brief overview of what we've been up to. I don't like to come in and say gloom and doom, because we deal with drug issues, but I want to say I concur with what Doctor said. Franklin's a wonderful community, and it's a great place to live. great place to raise children. I say that because I don't want you to think that we do have a drug issue that we're dealing with. It's a national issue. I'd like to congratulate my own people and other local law enforcement that we keep the community safe by what we do. And with that, what we're dealing with now in our community, especially Kentucky, Tennessee, and in our area of the world, is right now is a product called fentanyl. And most of y'all have probably heard of it. Fentanyl was used back in the day, and still does, as a kind of a cancer painkiller. It was so extreme that somebody is on their dying bed of hospice with cancer, they would put it in a patch form and put it on people as kind of a slow release painkiller, because it's 100 times more powerful than morphine. Well, somewhere along the line, drug dealers realized that they could take fentanyl and mix it with other drugs really cheaply and sell it. We first saw it in heroin, as Kentucky a few years ago started this spike in heroin. And what that was the result of is because people started cracking down on prescription drugs, the police, the doctors, people were overprescribed medicine. There was doctors went to jail right here in this community that we put in jail, federal jail. And it caused a lot of overdose deaths. Prescription painkillers is an opiate, just like from a poppy. You hear about Afghanistan, places like that, they grow poppies. So it makes opiates. Well, heroin is an opiate. So if you are addicted to prescription medicine, and all of a sudden that's taken away from you, you've got to turn to an opiate, which is heroin. Well, drug dealers, heroin is relatively expensive to make and smuggle. They started getting fentanyl from China, which is where it was produced, mixing heroin and fentanyl. It was a flood in the market. We started seeing that. It was causing people to just drop dead left and right a few years ago. So they started kind of focusing on that. But then the drug dealers realized, hey, if we mix it with heroin, we mix it with methamphetamine too. And so now they're mixing it with methamphetamine. The problem is, well, it's all a problem, but heroin is a downer. Fentanyl is a downer. Meth is an upper, fentanyl is a downer. So now you've got meth and fentanyl mixed together. Your body don't know what to do, you know. So it's just crazy. It's like taking, you know, snorting a line of cocaine and drinking a shot of whiskey. One's a downer and one's an upper. Causes problems. Same here. So last year Kentucky had more overdose deaths than ever. And on par this year we're the same. And on top of overdose deaths, we have the highest number of overdoses that you don't hear about where they actually live. Y'all all probably heard of Narcan. Narcan is something we carry every day now. Police officers carry every day. We carry it. We used to not carry Narcan because we carry it to maybe help somebody else, but we carry it because we can get exposed to it ourselves, and we have to take it. We've had it administered to canine dogs before because they sniffed the fentanyl and it's caused them to go to cardiac arrest. We've had to bring them out. So I'm saying all that because right now, the drug community, it has evolved. Fentanyl on its own. You may have read the paper, it may have came out a press release, maybe Friday, we've got more coming out. We identified a gang of people here in Franklin, got some complaints from the citizens, and we take our complaints seriously, that they were dealing in a fentanyl-based product and it was causing some overdoses. So we looked into it, this fentanyl was purple. It just, I don't know why, it just had its own little thing. Well, we identified the source coming from the Nashville area. So we started doing surveillance, doing what we do, and we developed a gang of people going back and forth to Nashville to Franklin, Kentucky, and supplying a good section of Franklin fentanyl. And another thing they're also doing with the fentanyl, they're buying these pill presses, and they're pressing the fentanyl into tablets to look like pain medicine. So if you've got an addiction or whatever, and somebody sells you a hydrocodone, and they're like, here, it's hydrocodone, you're used to taking hydrocodone, it could be fentanyl pressed into looking like hydrocodone, and that's caused a lot of overdoses. So we're seeing that happen now. We just busted a group here in Franklin in a really nice neighborhood, that was supplying most of Franklin with fentanyl. And I'm happy to say, with local help of locals and everything, we've put those people in jail. Now, that's not the only ones, but I'm just here to kind of tell you what we're up to, and we are out there, and we are working for this community, and we appreciate all the support we get. And we, I'm looking at my notes and stuff here, make sure I didn't miss anything. And anyway, and also, as y'all know, we, last year, we moved our office to Franklin. You know, we spent many years, you know, we've got Logan and Simpson we cover, we spent many years in Logan. I felt it was time we brought it to Franklin to, you know, to share, you know, to even give us more support. And that and I-65 runs through here, which, whether we like it or not, is just a major corridor for narcotic trafficking. So we're on top of it, we're working hard, and my report is, you know, we're out there at night, we're out there fighting this problem. But with that said, Franklin is still a great place to live.
Thank you, Jackie.
Jeff.
I read the article, thank you. Yeah, I have no idea what you guys do, but I appreciate what you do. I read an article, one of the things that scared me the most, what I read in there, said it had enough fentanyl to take out about 8,000 people.
And that was a conservative estimate.
And I saw when I read that, that was very shocking. It's frightening. You know, when you talk about a community the size of Franklin, 20,000 people total, and you got enough drugs to take out, you know, that many people in a community, you know, it's very frightening. And having you guys doing what you're doing, even though we sleep at night and feel safe in our homes and don't know anything about any of this until you come and report it. Thank you, I appreciate it, you know. I think obviously when we get ready to do our budgets and, you know, we will definitely be thinking about what you guys do and how you put yourself on the line for what you do. I just want to say thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I just want to echo exactly what Commissioner Stewart said. Jackie, we know you're out there working, and it's good to know that we've got people like you all out there doing that we can go to bed at night and know that we are safe in our homes with the,
Well, I'm
with
really, the people that
the-
work for me, that are out there, you know, they're doing a good job. And I mean, I can't give them enough credit. So, got a good group of people, including representing Franklin Police Department. So,
I don't think people realize how volatile fentanyl actually is. You take Abraham's nose on a penny, that little amount can kill one person.
what they usually use for an example, you've seen those little valves, little glass vial. Say it's full of morphine. Everybody kind of knows about morphine. They've had it when using the hospital or whatever. Well, they put two vials together, and like that's full of morphine. There's like, looks like 3 or 4 grains of sand in this valve. That's fentanyl. That's compared to how potent one is to the other.
Yeah.
So, and then there's carfentanil out there, which is a derivative of fentanyl. It's even 1,000 times more. And fentanyl was being made in China, and it still is. The people hoarding it off the internet. But now the cartels in Mexico have figured out a way to make their own fentanyl, so it's coming up through the southwest border too.
Sir, do the people that are making this, are they chemists, doctors, or?
Well, y'all remember several years ago when we were inundated with meth labs. Remember that? You don't hear about meth labs so much anymore because one, we passed a whole bunch of laws. When my career was I spent 20 years with the state police where I retired and took over this task force, narcotics. Now, they sent me to Canada to learn how to make methamphetamine. And the reason why they did that, because all of a sudden it was popping up these little mobile labs. What you're talking about? No, it's some guy that's got a recipe off the internet. He blows himself up. You won't believe how many. There's a guy we used to deal with not very far from here. They called him Scarface Rick because he blew himself up and half his face was, and he was still cooking. But we outlawed a bunch of chemicals, so what they did is they moved it back across the border. So they're making it there. But see, what they do now is they have these mobile labs. They make meth and fentanyl in a liquid form. And they smuggle it across like in whiskey bottles or like tequila bottles because it's clear. And then they can take a mobile lab and change it from a liquid. There's a chemical process to change it from a liquid to a solid. And, no, these are guys setting up, they'll rent an old farmhouse somewhere out in the country or whatever, kind of fly under the radar, they'll go in and mix up a bunch of this stuff and make it, and then they'll move on. So no, now there may be in one of these super labs in Mexico, that guy may be a chemist. But the guys that are transferring it here, there's just some guy that was, he's had a,
Hit or miss, huh?
yeah, hit or miss and blow you up or not blow you up type of deal, so.
Jackie, I remember years ago, I went to a seminar about meth and learned all of the things that were in it, which was horrendous, what
Right.
people were putting in their bodies. With this fentanyl being much, much stronger and made in China and now Mexico, what is it that's in there that makes it so potent?
Be honest with you, see, that's what we're concerned with now, is we're afraid we're gonna come across a fentanyl lab. I know, I'm certified to take down a methamphetamine lab. I'm not certified to take down a fentanyl lab. And, guys in emergency management and places like that, to do a fentanyl lab, you're supposed to be in a Class A suit, and Bob can explain that to you. That's this fully encapsulated suit with oxygen and all this stuff, and we don't have the training for that. I mean, we could, if it comes down to it, we'll have to send somebody to that training, so that's a fear of mine, that we're gonna run across a fentanyl lab.
So is it some kind of chemicals
It's
mixed
all
together?
chemical, it's synthetic,
Yeah.
is what it is. Which, like methamphetamine, a lot of people don't know, cocaine has got a lot of chemicals in it. It comes from the coca plant, but it's not just the coca plant. They mix a bunch of chemicals to get that end process. But meth is completely, they're taking amphetamine, which is, like Sudafed, like people take for a cold, they take that Sudafed, and there's a chemical process, you're changing the molecule, is all you're doing. And I mean, that's above my head too, but there's this, you've seen those chemical chains and these, these formulas where you change that molecule, and that changes the meth. Well, see, now they're doing that, but then they're adding the fentanyl. And see, that's where the guesswork, it comes in, and you don't know if it's gonna kill you or not, because we worked an overdose death in Logan County. We got a guy, we're looking for him, because he was on meth. He was 20 years old. He was on meth, living with his parents. And he was used to taking meth. Well, he got a new contact in White House, Tennessee, and he'd been used to dying from this one guy, which was all meth. What he didn't know is this contact in White House was mixing fentanyl with his meth. So he goes over and buys his normal amount of meth, him and his buddy. They come back to Russellville. His buddy takes his first, and he starts overdosing. So his buddy freaks out. He drops him off at his mother's. They send him to the hospital. Well, then you think after his buddy overdosed, he wouldn't take the stuff, but he didn't do nothing but go home, get in his bedroom, close the door, and did that meth. Well, his mother found him the next morning dead. And the only reason why his buddy lived is because he dropped him off at his mom's house. Mom freaked out, called an ambulance. So then we go to interview the friend at the hospital, because he's recovering the next day, and he tells us a lot at first, and he finally breaks down and says, we bought it from a new contact. Well, the new contact was mixing fentanyl with it. So his body was used to the meth, but it wasn't used to the fentanyl, so it killed him. I got his autopsy report back, and of course he had this level of meth, and then the lethal level of fentanyl, he had like 5 or 6 times the lethal level. And probably the guy that was mixing it just didn't know what he was doing. He knew he got a hold of a little fentanyl. See, that's what this bunch was doing here in Franklin that we just busted. They were buying pure fentanyl from some different sources in Nashville. They were coming back to Franklin and mixing it. But it's just like you or me, I think I'll throw a few grains in there. They don't know what they're doing. That's how people die. So. Take up too much of your time.
Thank you, Jackie. Thank you. Okay, next will be discussion and possible action regarding community safe rooms. And Kenton, Bob Palmer's here with us.
Yeah, come on forward, Mr. Palmer. We had been talking a lot, I think, with the recent tornadoes in the area, and I think Tammy Carey has been, and Bob was talking, so we thought it would be a good time for an update in safe houses, and I know that Bob has been working on some for a while, and I thought this would be a good opportunity just to bring us, the public, up to date.
Thanks for inviting me over to visit. I need to show up a little bit more often, but it just seems like.
I thought you was one of the Oak Ridge boys.
I've been accused of it. I just don't have
William
to-
Blady?
I'm gonna give you a couple of different reports, real quick, like I wanna do a report on the communications, system. We've had our first, planning meeting, and it went real well, where we discussed the capabilities of the equipment and what we need to be thinking about as far as programming and the things it'll be able to do for us above and beyond what our current system will do, how it's gonna tie into Kentucky State Police, all that. We had a real good meeting. Unfortunately, it was the day of the 2 tractor trailer crash on the interstate, so we had people coming in and out trying to catch bits and pieces of it, but it went really well. There was also some conversation about the tower in the proposal, in the contract. We contracted for a guided tower with the guide wires and everything. Well, the majority of the developers that develop these kinds of systems on towers that are 250 feet or less, they do standalone towers. And so Motorola wanted to go back and review that, just to make sure we was doing the right thing financially and whatnot. And came back that the tower that we could have swapped out for and got a standalone tower was gonna be about $40,000 more than what we got, so we'll stay with the guided tower. And that was kind of the way he mentioned it to me. So that's all moving forward. By the end of this month, which is very soon, we'll start ordering equipment. So the consulates and that kind of stuff will be coming before too long, and we'll start moving on this thing. Our target date to try to put this thing, turn the key in it and start using it is December of '23. That's our target. There's a lot of things that are gonna affect that, whether it actually happens or not then, or maybe we can be a little bit quicker. There's just so many moving parts that we'll see. That's our target right now. So that's just kind of my, in a nutshell, report on the communications part of it. Safe rooms, that has been a really big topic of conversation in my world for the last 2 months, 3 months, since December 10th and January 1st. Everybody, we don't want to discount January 1st, having Bowling Green get hit twice with tornadoes that close together, December 10th and January 1st. And we actually had some tree damage, pretty good sized tree damage here in Franklin. I was sitting in my office as the system came through, and I thought I was going to pull the windows out of my office that day. So safe rooms were already a topic of conversation prior to, they're a really big topic of conversation now. So fortunately, prior to this, we had 2 years ago, off of a disaster, 2 years ago, I had put a safe room at the park, and that's been awarded to us. We're in the process of doing design and development now. The problem with safe rooms is they're a long project, but when you get it awarded, it's a couple of years before you get to see it up and running and everything. So that one was awarded. We're working on that. I have applied for 2 more smaller safe rooms at the park, just to spread them out a little bit. And then, was it last week or week before last, Tammy contacted, we were talking about safe rooms and mentioned a piece of property that the city owns over on the southwest part of town. And I talked to Kenton about it, and I had a deadline that I had to hit, so I went ahead and put in an application to put one there. And so we've got an application in for 3 more safe rooms. Whether we get them or not, it'll be, I mean, there's, across the state of Kentucky, there's quite a few hundred safe rooms being applied for. But the one that we're putting in the park, the first one is, we got a $600,000 grant to put that one up, so we should be able to get 350 people in that one. And then these other ones, the 2 smaller ones are $199 9-person safe room. If you go 200 people, you gotta put bathrooms and stuff in it. So because of the lack of sewer and stuff like that in the park, we decided not to go with bathrooms and those. But the big one that we're working on, I've asked them to develop that one with the bathrooms so that you can access them from the outside as well, without getting into the safe room, so that we can have another set of bathrooms in the park with that one. And the other one that Kenton and I talked about the other day, where I put in for, I think it's $500,000 or $600,000 grant for that one, to make a big one there as well, with bathrooms and stuff. And these safe rooms can be, they have to be built to FEMA specifications, and that's all the grant that FEMA's gonna spend on it is basically the shell. But like these big ones, they can be finished out a little bit on the inside. You can't put anything permanent like tables, and you can have tables and chairs, but they have to be folded up so you can push them out of the way and whatnot. But these bigger safe rooms, we can actually do some painting and stuff on the inside of them, make them so that they can be used for community meeting rooms and stuff like that. So that's what we're looking at there. I'm in the process of considering some, doing some research to find out what we can do for the low water crossings. I think everybody knows we had another fatality a couple weeks ago on one of the low water crossings, and it's just hard to know what to do with laws for the roads and whatnot, so.
That was on the question I was getting ready to ask you. When do you decide, is there a group of people that go around into those low water crossing areas that usually flood and determine when to close that road, and what is the process of that?
Yeah, there's a couple of ways. If the county road department hasn't gotten there and somebody finds that the water's going over the road, and we've got enough experience with it now that we know roughly how much rain it's gonna take to cover those crossings. If somebody finds the water going over it and we're expecting it to come on up, then they'll notify us. Bobby gets his guys out there. He sends as soon as we think it's gonna go underwater, he starts monitoring them. And he's the one that makes the determination about when they close. And right now, what we've got is we've got a sign. They go out and they flip a sign down that says the bridge is closed a mile ahead, or whatever the case may be. And then when you get down the road a little bit closer, there's a gate that swings halfway across, because there's issues apparently about closing a road completely. So there's a road or a gate that swings halfway across that says the bridge is closed. And then there's other signs. So it's well marked that the bridges are out. There is, I don't know if anybody can remember, a couple of years ago on New Year's Eve, there was a tragedy in, I think it was Monroe County, where a young girl washed off her bridge over there. And I'm not sure what the connection is with her and that situation and Barron County, but I think it's the ag class or somebody in Barron County has designed an automatic sign that has sensors and whatnot in it, and it's solar powered. And when the sensors come up to a certain point, it triggers the lights on the sign, and the sign will start flashing, and there's a red light. They're doing more testing. I was reading a report on that this week. They're doing more testing on that, simply because of the liability that they will have if they put these things into any kind of production. But I'm keeping an eye on that, because I think that would be definitely something we would probably try to do as well, to just put something more out there. But the main thing is, I say it month after month after month in my preparedness messages, if you come across a water, turn around. It's not
Well,
constructed.
and that was fully marked. Well, I understand, even though with the tragedy, it was fully
Yeah.
So they went around.
marked.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, most of the ones that we've had in the last number of years, the bridges have been closed and marked,
And they-
and people go around the barriers,
so sad.
so.
Okay,
But that's, if anybody's got any questions about safe rooms or anything.
Was one bit of, I think, action we need, the property that Mr. Palmer's talking about it's on, West Madison, Sing subdivision. There's 2 acres there that was deeded to the city for, and it's kind of for a park. That's the area that we're looking at, and I think if the commission would agree of establishing that location, that if we get awarded, I'm being optimistic, and Tammy and I have talked about this would be a good area to go ahead and make it a pocket park. It would really facilitate the area, and it's a good area. We figure that we need this, but I think if the commission finds this acceptable, we'll go ahead and make a motion and say, this is a dedicated spot, so when it comes in 2 years, we're ready to go with it. Also, we can kind of be planning for a little playground or whatever and support it,
I'll
so.
make that motion.
I think it puts, I think it really is nice because it puts something on each end of town.
That's
That
right.
way too. It's,
And I'm
Makes-
still looking for other locations too, so. if
The
you
one
guys
in the
have-
park, the large, when they're talking about the park, what area of the park would that be?
It'd be over kind of west of the,
Hillside over
it'd be west of the,
there, old softball field.
no, it's kind of in the north end of the park. Over there, like north of the basketball courts, over
Okay.
on
Yeah.
that slope of that.
Okay.
That's about the only place we've got any kind of sewer over there. to put 'em. So that, plus, that big of a section, we have to have a place for parking. So it's pretty wide open space, so we can develop a parking lot.
Closer to the horse ring, on
Yeah,
that, on
the
that side.
demolition track and all
Yeah,
that,
okay.
yeah, it's just up the hill.
Right.
Kenton, is it all right to accept a motion then at this point?
Yeah, I
To
just
go
think-
ahead and accept that?
That's
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion then by Commissioner Bennett and a motion by a second by Commissioner Stewart to okay this particular piece of property for this. So any further discussion? We'll have a roll call vote. Commissioner Stewart?
Yes.
Commissioner Bennett?
Yes,
Commissioner
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Commissioner Powell?
Yes.
My vote's a yes, and that motion carries. So,
Thank you.
Bob, I think you've done some good work this morning, and some good,
I'm trying,
good,
I appreciate it. I want to plug one more thing that just came to mind.
Yeah.
The city and the county have jointly purchased this mass notification system called AlertSense. We use it quite a bit, but I'm always hearing people tell me, I used to get these phone calls from you. I used to get, well, it's been about 3 years now, we haven't been using Code Red. When we transitioned from Code Red to AlertSense, Code Red kept all of our data. They kept all the phone numbers and everything. So AlertSense is a 100% sign up, so everybody has to sign up for it. So anybody that's hearing this or seeing this, that used to get the calls, doesn't want to get the calls, they can go to the county website. I think there's a link on the city's website to AlertSense, and the emergency management's website. There's multiple places where you can go in there, click the link, sign yourself up, and you'll start getting those calls.
I think we probably need to post something like that on our Facebook page and everybody share it, because that's the first I've even heard about it. So I'm sure there are a lot of people that are not
Yeah,
aware of that.
I hear it weekly that I
So-
used to get your calls and now I
Yeah,
don't. So.
so maybe
Yeah.
that's something we can.
Another push to get the word out, that you're
Yes.
gonna have to sign up. to it.
Yes.
okay. That's good information, because
Yeah.
as she has said, I've had several people to ask me why we're not hearing the cows.
I'm trying not to be lazy, I still do my monthly calls.
Okay, thank you, Bob. We will now move on to general government, and first, under general government we had bid openings for our new police grounds, and those were held Friday, and we do have a solid bid, I think, and I'm going to let Kenton Powell bring that to us at this.
As the mayor had mentioned, we had a bid opening Friday at, basically at 11 o'clock. And so really didn't have enough time to put it in your normal competition packet. We really wanted to evaluate it, but basically, it's all the information you got. We had 4 bidders on a bid opening, and basically, if you was to look on sheet 5, you can see who the bidders were. The lowest was Innovative Demolition. It was $170,245. And the second to lowest was Infinity Pipeline, $188,888. And that was the recommendation that we're seeking, because Infinity has done work in the city before. They're out of Bowling Green. The lowest bidder, Innovative, I think they're out of Indiana. They don't have a presence here, and $18,000 lower. If you was to look on sheet 3, this is one of the things on the very bottom of sheet 3. It's not a requirement, but we're asking anybody that was to be bidding to contact me or Steve Aiken and walk over the site, talk about where we wanted to put the concrete to remove. Wasn't contacted, so I'm not sure, I didn't feel comfortable that they had the whole scope. Being that Infinity has worked with the city before and they've done very good work, and talking with Eric Chambers, he's kind of the facilitator of the ones that's doing the architectural design for us for the police station. Our recommendation is to go with Infinity Pipeline for $188,888. And just for the commission and also for the public, that's removing basically all the concrete, getting it off the site, and basically making it site ready. It's basically cutting the grade and everything for building, getting ready for building. So that's the very first step. And I know I'm excited to get rid of the concrete and actually making it look more presentable. But we feel like this is the first step, and then to go forward, I really feel that this will be done probably less than 60 days before June 30.
Yes.
But anyway, if you have any questions, but that was the recommendation that Roger and I talked about it, and also Steve Aiken, he was a part of this discussion too. We felt very comfortable with Infinity Pipeline moving forward.
I'll make that motion. I've worked with Infinity several times. They do really solid work for us on the utility side, for sure.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion then by Commissioner Powell, second by Commissioner Williams, that we.
I
Yes,
just a question. I know most of the times when we do bids, and I know these numbers are going to be submitted for public viewing. And I know a lot of times, again, we usually go with lower bidders. Now, of course, we're going to be spending roughly a few $1,000s more using Infinity. But the money, and I just want to, for my personal feeling to vote for this, I'm good with it. But the extra money that we're spending is for our security of knowing that this company is solid. We know more about this company than the other one. We don't really have anything of information with the lowest bid that's coming in.
Yeah.
We all know sometimes cheap is not always the best way to go.
I would have felt a lot better if this was the low bidder to walk the site with me or Steve.
Sure.
And get, because it's not what I would call this is very unique.
Yes.
And where we're doing, and it was just, there's no contact.
Sure.
So I felt I think we kind of felt an uneasiness to go with the low bidder because of that fact.
And I just want, and I'm going to grasp that same feelings, because obviously you all have done the groundwork, you've done the homework, and you feel good they've done work for us before. Although it's a little more than what the
Yes.
lowest bid is. I just want to feel good about, spending that additional
So we're
money.
going with this
Also
one.
saving. So I'm good. I just want to get that out.
Sure,
there,
it's a good
because I know
question.
These numbers are going to be huge.
That's right.
And the question is, why wouldn't you go with a little bit opposed to someone a little higher?
Right.
So I just wanted to have that little minor discussion.
These bids are for the removal, the breaking up the concrete, removal, and also the excavating,
Yeah, that's-
leveling off.
Yeah, it's going to actually be taking the site and making it site ready.
Because right now,
We're gonna do that as well.
it's kind of
A step.
going uphill.
Yeah.
So is that gonna be a gradual thing down to the
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
street so that?
Yeah, it's going to be coming with dirt and contour scape for the building.
Okay.
So basically what it look like is when we do award the bid, whoever gets that, they're ready to dig the footer and start building. There is no grade work.
It's site.
So it's site ready. So, and really it kind of puts us in a better position. And then also, to me, it will clean up an eyesore right now that we've gotten. Even though it's better, it's just nothing but concrete.
So in this also, means that the area around the schoolhouse will also be.
Well, all around the schoolhouse,
All around that
yes.
schoolhouse, and get up that pavement and
Yeah.
all.
Yeah. Now, we won't be on the schoolhouse property, but all around that.
Right.
And that'll be
This
a,
year will make the school look
Right.
better.
yeah, yeah.
Removing all
And the
those
next step
fields.
would be that, but this is,
I mean,
you know,
we just
but.
need to go over and seed that, put some grass and stuff.
And that was, I'm glad you brought that up, Commissioner, is that Steve and I talked about, even though we're probably 3 months out, once it gets kind of, the earthwork done, we're going to sow grass on it and get a stand of grass, so it
Make
won't
that
just
look a lot
look
better
like
this year.
Yeah.
weeds and thistles and whatever,
Just
so.
one more question, you know, and I'm.
Sure, Commissioner.
This is gonna be, getting this approved, when will they be able to start?
That's my question. Because people have been asking me, what are they gonna do? When are they gonna start?
When will they be able to start excavating and cleaning
Yeah.
up?
Oh, I would think starts today. I mean, I would say basically, the kind of timeline, if you look at it, we kind of talked about it, but the end of June 30, but my personal feeling, it'll be less than 4 weeks.
Okay.
So this is the advantage that a company like Infinity, if it's rainy and can't too muddy to do anything else, they can rip up concrete and haul it off. It doesn't stop them. So this is a good little field work. And then basically of looking into the equipment, the massive, I think Steve Aiken said they had a bucket as wide as this room. So they could do a lot of moving in a real short period of time. But our goal, what we talked about is if we got this by June, and there's a lot of moving parts, and we would submit the bid package in June for the police department. And Roger, correct me if I get out of line here as far as I miss. So if we present the bid package to building the PD June 1 and give it a month to do basically the 1st of July, and said after the 4th of July that we would award a bid. And then basically, once the financing's done, Carol, that we could actually be ready to start building sometime in August. Did I say that correct, Roger? And be ready to move in at what was it?
He said potentially October of 23, because you want to give some buffer for weather and stuff like that. So 14 months roughly from the time you start. So, yeah, this site, that's what it basically sets the groundwork for them to come up there, and that crew is ready from day one to get going.
So there's,
I think we're all excited about it.
Let's get it done.
Get closer.
so I talked to the mayor, I said, possibly in August or whatever, we'll just have a groundbreaking, cut that ribbon and say, move that truck or move that bus, and then, right? So we're pretty excited. I mean, Roger and I had another meeting with the consultant, and I think from the community perspective and what's going to be available, it's going to be a nice thing for us, the city, to have.
Sure.
So,
Mayor,
I think we're all real excited to
I'm
get going
done.
on
I'm
it.
done.
Real excited. So any further discussion then? Okay, so we do have a motion by Commissioner Powell, a second by Commissioner Williams. Any further discussion? If not, Commissioner Stewart?
Yes.
Commissioner Bennett?
Absolutely.
Commissioner Williams?
Yes.
Commissioner Powell?
You know mine.
My vote's a yes, and we're, Carol, tell them that we're ready to go.
Ready to go.
Ready to go.
I was supposed to say, show me the
See
money.
them there tomorrow. Tell them we'll see them there tomorrow.
We'll move on to, under general government, to discussion or possible action regarding public infrastructure, security, cyber, education system, and Tammy Carey will bring that to us.
Mine is not nearly as exciting as that. Chief went up to me today. For the last probably year, we've been talking about cybersecurity, which if you watch the news, is definitely a growing concern across the world. And we've been working really hard over the last year to train employees, to implement procedures, and put things into place that hopefully will make our systems just a little bit safer. As we continue to work with the staff of the U.S. Department of Homeland Security and the Kentucky Department of Homeland Security, we're consistently being introduced to new services and programs and things that are available to local government entities such as ourselves, and many of these are at no cost. So we are definitely taking advantage. I think we all, after you just approved that budget item, Carol and I are free. So that's a win-win. One service that we've recently learned about is a potential partnership with Pisces International, and Pisces stands for Public Infrastructure Security Cyber Education System. This is a nonprofit organization that works with colleges and universities to provide no-cost cybersecurity event monitoring to small public sector organizations. So that would be upper-level college students that are gaining real-world experience by monitoring local organizations' systems. So a lot of times companies will purchase or hire companies to monitor their systems it's very costly, but this is a service that they're providing for free. The monitoring actually involves a device being plugged into our server that would capture metadata. And metadata is actually data that provides information about other data. So Carol and Daniel and I were on a call recently, and we said, okay, break this down into simple terms that we can understand. And the example that they used was a stack of sealed envelopes. You think about that stack of sealed envelopes, you can look through those and you can see who it's going to and who it's coming from, but you can't see what's inside. So that's what this does. The students can see the IP addresses of where information is coming from and who it's going to, but they can't see any of the messages or the images or anything that's inside of that message. So hopefully that kind of broke it down. I think after you explained that, it kind of just clicked with us as to what exactly they were talking about. But the students review that data, and they're looking for specific trends. Are there lots of messages coming in from a foreign country at an odd time, or coming in from a foreign country at all, being our government entity? Are, certain things being kind of targeted or looked at? So they're really looking for threat analysis and intrusion detection. So with all of that, do you have any questions?
Just one, Tammy. Just one. We won't have to do homework with this company.
No, do not have to do homework.
We have our little.
Yeah.
You have to continue to do that.
Oh, we didn't?
Y'all are doing great. I will tell you.
I'm behind on that.
Once a month, actually twice a month, I guess, everybody's receiving a phishing email. And our numbers of people that click on those has continued to go down. I think the last one that we sent out, we only had one person click on it. So that was real exciting. So I think that training, I think it's making employees more aware of what's out there, kind of what the bad guys are looking for, what they're targeting. And of course, we know that's constantly changing. So, but y'all are doing great. And I get little alerts every time somebody finishes their training, so.
Hey, Tammy, on the students that will be doing this, I mean, as you said, they're students, they're higher level students, but do they have to go through any kind of background check themselves I mean, I guess I'm being a little overcautious here because they're gonna have access, not seeing the stuff, but they'll have access to our system. And is it feasible that they could plant a virus or anything in there?
I think that question was asked. Carol, do you remember how they responded?
I think it has to do with the people who are supervising them and really kind of have that locked down to a certain degree so that those students can't directly come in. It has to funnel, I thought, through the organization that they're getting this training from, basically. And this is part of their classroom experience. They're being graded. This group has educated the professors so they can teach them this real world stuff. So it's in their best interest to really get the training.
And the students won't have access to our
Yes,
information.
it's just funneled through.
Capturing that,
Mhm.
and then they're analyzing it.
Yeah.
So they will never have a direct link to
Yeah.
to
Okay,
our system.
okay.
It just captures it and sends it to them. And then if they see anything, then they notify us, and that's when our IT staff would then come into play and they would investigate further. So if they see anything, it's more of, hey, this we see that this happened, we want to let you all know, and then they look at it further. They would not go in and like fix anything.
Right.
But this is supported by the Homeland Security, correct, through the
correct.
government? I mean, you're talking about oversight, I would
Yeah.
think that,
It's locked.
yeah, so.
And actually, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security.
Okay.
The cyber intelligence, CISA.
Are you're proposing a motion then, Tammy, to, okay?
I so move that we participate in this security cyber education system with Pisces.
I second, Mayor.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Bennett, a second by Commissioner Stewart. Any further discussion? Okay, Commissioner Stewart,
Yes.
Commissioner Bennett,
Yes.
Commissioner Williams,
Yes.
Commissioner Powell.
Yes.
My vote's a yes, and that motion carries. And thank you, Tammy, for bringing that forward to us. Okay, under general government, we will move on to discussion and a possible action regarding sexual harassment and respectful workplace training. And I think Kenton Powell has some comments.
Yeah, really, I think the only action would be is if y'all wanted to attend, but anyway, I'm pretty excited about this. Myself, Rita, and Chris have been talking about this training for a long time. We've talked about our workforce and how things are changing, but the agenda is, unlawful discrimination, sexual and other forms of harassment, reporting unlawful behavior, no retaliation, and best practices for creating a respectful workplace. Those are the agenda, and we've, some of it is self-explanatory, but a lot of it is we've talked about, we in the city, we have multiple generations, baby boomers, millennials, Generation Z, et cetera, et cetera. And this is kind of how to communicate it properly through all those different generations. So it's going to be a real informative, and it got some case studies and whatever, so I'm pretty excited. There's Friday, 2 classes that you can pop in either one of them if you have the time. But I just kind of wanted to get the word out, and here again, I really appreciate the commission putting part of this in our training thing, because it helps us and helps our workers in the field to understand what we're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. I try to field any questions you may have, but I know we had some training last fall or last Christmas or last summer, but this is kind of the next set we'd like to go ahead and go through. And one of the questions on, I think last week we had a property casualty. One of the things is, have you had sexual harassment training? And we said we got it coming Friday. That gives a check mark. But this is something you do every year. It's something we have to keep doing. But no action.
There's no
required.
action to be
No, sir.
taken. So, any,
I would also like to, if you can implement some LGBTQ training as well as the sexual harassment training.
I'm going to add that to my list. Good point. Absolutely. And probably some of that is embedded in some of this. I haven't got down and drilled it, but that's the type of harassment and stuff like that we got to be careful and be more sensitive about. So, but you're right on point.
any further comment? Okay, we will move on then next under general government to discussion and possible action regarding proposed ordinance rezoning property located on North Street from I-1 to R1S. And Kenton, you want to, that's
I'll
page,
be Scott Crabtree today. You know all about it. How's he do these hand gestures? But anyway. But no, this is Kent Kelly and Dave Carver. They come before us several weeks ago, but 8 acres of that property was zoned light industrial. This is going to R1S. So as Scott says, I just need 2 sponsors for the. You got Amy and Herbert right here.
So we can move on then.
How did I do, Kathy?
Kathy? Next, under general government, will be discussion of possible action regarding a proposed ordinance amending FY 22 budget, and that's on page 33, and Carol is here to bring that to us. And I'm sorry, page 23.
Yep. Page 33. So hopefully this will be the final budget amendment for fiscal year 2022. Basically going towards the end of this year, we have relooked at all the revenues and the timing of expenses. and have made changes to the budget to reflect those. So if you look at page 34, we've got the summary of the proposed changes. The box that says proposed changes in net assets, you can see general fund, 654,000 positive, and utility fund, $891,000 positive. Those are really the two funds that have changed. The others are all very minor. And the changes are both positive. The general fund is $240,000 better than the previous version, and the utility fund is $683,000. Basically, on the general fund, we're getting some more revenues in, just based on what we're seeing trend-wise. And some of the capital purchases have moved out into next year versus being in this year. And then there's a couple other topics I want to talk about with general fund when we get back to the community services page, so we'll cover that in a minute. On the utility side, we had added some growth factors into the utilities when we did the budget for this year, but we're seeing some switch in which, residential versus commercial, but overall we still are coming in, it looks like higher than what we projected with that growth. So good job, Chris. And on the capital side, we've had to do some sewer projects that you guys have already approved, but we got that in this budget, and we're delaying some of the water distribution projects into next year just from a timing standpoint. So any questions or anything that's on page 34? Okay. And if you go to a couple, I don't know if this has a page number, but it's the community services with the pink and the blue font there. So the first column is what we did for this current year's budget, and the items in pink are the ones we pre-funded in last year, as we've been doing the last few years, as we've had the cash to do that. So in the column with the blue, that's this latest amendment, and it's adding those same community services to be pre-funded for next fiscal year, and we would pay that out this fiscal year. The total of those items in blue is $67,500, which is what I think consistently we've done the last 2 or 3 years. So any questions, comments? Okay. And the next page, or the back of that page, has some items in yellow. Those items total up to the $62,500, which is the first quarterly payment from Kentucky Downs for the community contribution support payments. What we had talked about internally and with Kentucky Downs is that these funds would primarily go to the recipients or organizations that lost their bingo funding with Kentucky Downs coming in place. And the ones I've listed the ones we've talked about there, and the amounts that we had originally talked about when we went out with Kentucky Downs, and so they could understand where those funds were going, as they had asked to have approval on. So I put those in this budget amendment. As we've talked about, this won't be a guarantee every year for these organizations. We'll revisit this every year at the budget time and make those decisions, and then we'll have to have a signed agreement with each of the organizations before we send that money out, so they fully understand the intent. So those are all built into the budget numbers that we just talked about on page 34. So I don't know if there's any other questions or comments or changes to that.
I don't have a question about that, but I do want to go back to the utility fund.
Okay.
Where are we in the collection of the past due bills that, that accumulated when we could not turn the water off?
No, back in the monthly reports, I don't know what page that's on. Yes, page 59, thank you. You can see that at the peak we were at 336,000, which is the red bar in that graph. Mm-hmm. And we've kind of leveled off around $220,000. Okay. We're still continuing to turn things over to collections when they meet the criteria we've set up for that. We've had some success in that. So just continuing to work forward. We do have several accounts that people are applying with that new grant money we have.
Yeah.
I don't know if we have new numbers. A lot of the funding we're awarded is going to other utilities, but we're still getting several vouchers from community service to help cover people's utility bills, and that usually takes a month or two to come in, so it doesn't come off of that list until we actually get that funding.
Carol, some of the agreements that were made, are some of those still coming in?
Yes, we have
As-
almost
where-
nothing left.
nothing
Almost
left.
every one of those
Yeah.
people have paid it off. We have
Good.
just a few
That's good.
$100 left. It's very insignificant at this point.
That's good.
So, yeah,
Thank you.
you're welcome. So if
Do you
there's
need a couple of sponsors here?
I do
Is
need a
that-
couple of
you
sponsors
have-
for that
Okay,
work.
you have Mr. Powell and Mr. Stewart. You have Kathy, did you get those? Okay, and we'll, move on to discussion and a possible action regarding proposed resolution adopting standard option for federal funding for local relief, and I think Carol will talk to us about that also.
Yes, as you all know, we got what was called ARPA funding, which is now called the Coronavirus State and Local Fiscal Recovery Funds, just for a few fun words there. So they finalized the rules, and that whole lost revenue calculation that we went through, very lengthy discussion on how we get that, has now all been simplified. And basically, the reporting is due for the first time at the end of this month. And we have two options for how we do lost revenue. They made one very simple standard allowance that says if you get up to $10 million, you can call it all lost revenue. Or the second option is to go to that lengthy calculation and do it at 4 different points in time. So my vote is we go with the standard allowance of $10 million.
And that would be my,
But KLC has recommended that we pass a resolution saying that that's the option we went with, just so that we have that documentation. And Daniel and I will do the reporting to get that submitted. So I request a motion to adopt Resolution E 2022 to elect their standard allowance and authorize the mayor to sign all documents regarding the standard allowance for identifying revenue
I
loss.
so moved.
Second. We have a motion by Commissioner Bennett, a second by Commissioner Powell, and we'll roll call vote. Commissioner Stewart?
Yes.
Commissioner Bennett?
Yes.
Commissioner Williams?
Yes.
Commissioner Powell?
Yes.
My vote's a yes, and that's good.
All right,
Carol?
thank you.
Yeah. Okay, that will take us on. We'll move out of general government into public services, public safety. Nothing, Roger? Okay. Utilities, Chris, is it? Okay. We'll move on to ordinances, and that'll be on page 44, and Miss Kathy Dillard will take that for us.
Thank you, Mayor. We'll have first summary reading of 2 ordinances today. First one is ordinance number 2022-014, an ordinance rezoning approximately 8.006 acres of land located on the north side of North Street from I-1 light industrial to R1S single family residential, based upon a recommendation by the Planning and Zoning Commission from a petition filed by Kelly Storage, Inc. And we'll move on into first summary reading of ordinance number 2022-015, an ordinance amending the annual budget for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2021 and ending June 30, 2022 by estimating revenues and appropriations. This concludes first summary reading of these ordinances. The full text is available at City Hall, at the office of the city clerk during normal business hours, and will be available on the city's website upon passage and publication.
Okay, thank you. There's no action to be taken on those.
Not
Not today.
today.
So-
Thank you.
Right. And thank you, Kathy. And that will take us on to executive session, and that will be personnel, and that will be discussions or hearings under which might lead to the appointment, discipline, or dismissal of an individual employee or member, and that's under KRS 618101F. And I will need a motion to go into executive session.
Somebody.
Have a motion by Commissioner Williams. Second by Commissioner Powell, and all in favor, aye.